So, in today's session, we are going to discuss CDS BOPF integration with sales order and sales order items. In our class before, we just implemented a single or a simple BOPF example, but now we are going to see how to develop a complex CDS BOPF integration with header and line item, which eventually will produce two nodes. One is a header node and another will be a child node. This is what we will be seeing in our case. What is going to be our agenda for today's scenario? Today we will discuss first the flow of our requirement. What will be the flow for developing this application? Then we will talk about the custom tables which we are going to put in the system for sales order and sales order items. Then we will create the interface CDS views as the primary thing. With these interface CDS views, we will be creating a business object out of this interface view in the system. That's what we will be doing first. Then next step, we will see how to build our consumption view as usual, as per S/4HANA guideline, and build a OData service. Finally, we will enrich this using metadata extensions, which we saw also in the last class, to enable Fiori user interface, and then create a Fiori app using VS Code in local machine. So let's start with the flow. So it is going to be a 4-step process. In the step 1, I'm going to develop two tables. One is sales order header and one is sales order items. These custom tables eventually will contain our data for sales orders. Then we will go to step 2, where we will build interface CDS views. Interface CDS views, which will also work like business object with the transaction processing enabled along with the draft capabilities. This time we will see how to connect these two CDS views with association through annotations related to BOPF, so-called composition root, composition parent, and composition child. These annotations will help us to tell this BOPF framework how my business object nodes will be created and interrelated. Then we will create finally our consumption views for sales order header and sales order item, and then expose the sales order header as a OData service. At the end of it, we will build metadata extension with UI annotations to enrich our UI, and finally the Fiori app, which completes a real-time scenario. If time permits, I will also show you some of the standard SAP delivered objects on the same fashion, so that you can map it to the real-time application, which is also SAP is delivering, standard application SAP is delivering with CDS BOPF integration. So our final outcome should look like this, where we will have first a header screen, which is showing us all the sales orders. As you can see, I can search sales orders by sales order ID and status. I have multiple sales orders which are there, which are displayed. And then you drill down, you will see the item data. So then you have sales order items where you can choose product, quantity, and the gross amount of the item level. You can see a create option to also add items to the sales order, through which we will be able to navigate and create, maintain, delete, edit both sales order header as well as sales order items in the table. This is our end outcome at the end of today's scenario, which is what we are targeting by this requirement. Now, let's start first creating our database table. It is going to be absolutely simple database table. We are not adding too much complexity at the moment, because you can later on enhance this database table with more columns. But right now, I would put bare minimum required to build a sales order. As you can pay attention to the columns, we have first the client field, which is mandate to make my table client dependent. We have sales order ID, which is of type character 10. We have business partner ID, overall status, and some of the administration fields we will be taking care of. This is our header table. Next, if we see the items table, this is our items table where we are going to have sales order item data stored, where sales order ID is part of a composite primary key from previous table, and sales order item ID, which makes each item for sales order unique. Then we have product, currency code, gross amount, and quantity. These are all the two tables which we have. Additionally, these tables will connect also to standard SAP tables of our EPM data model to provide value helps. For example, when you want to create item data, you would need to choose product ID. This product ID we will fetch from another standard database table, and same for currency code because we already have a standard CDS providing currency code in the system. Then we have the database design with CDS views, and you can clearly see that this is going to be our broad design for the entire scenario. We will have the database table at the bottom. On top of this database table, we will create interface views. You can see interface view for sales order and sales order item. And then we will have a relationship. This time, this relationship is of type composition. What is composition? Composition means every item which you create, it depends on order. You cannot create item without creating a order, which is true also in real life. You cannot have a student in a school or in a college without having a class assigned to that student. He or she becomes student of a class only once you have a class. So first you start a section or a class, you tie up with the university, you start a course, and then only you can enroll students to that course or that class. Or same fashion, you can't have items without having a order. So this is why it's minimum one-to-one relationship. This type of relationship is called composition. We are having a composition between order header and order items. You can notice I don't have right now a hard foreign key relationship between table, which is not mandatory. We can do a relationship through CDS association directly at the CDS level. Additionally, to get support from a standard table, the sales order header table will take data from a standard CDS view given by SAP for business partner, where we will get customer data from, and also the standard view, which provides me the overall status of sales order. This is another standard view. So we will also combine this with standard tables, standard views given by SAP. This is a good scenario through which you can understand that when you develop an application, you would also depend on a lot of standard tables. Suppose I wanted to develop a scenario for HR, then I would go and depend on a standard SAP table for Pernner. Yes, where you have Pernner master detail, personal number master detail. Or if I'm developing an accounting solution using CDS BOPF, I would depend on tables like BSEG. Yes, all those tables. Similarly, my order item depends on product data because to create an item, you need product information, which we will get from standard CDS for value help, and also the currency information. Then we are going to build consumption view. You can pay attention that this view has proper naming convention this time, C underscore. These are consumption views for final consumption, and they will be built on top of my interface views. Finally, again, we have a composition relationship between them. Parent-child relationship, you can see parent and child, which is what makes our business object structure. At the end, we will have dedicated metadata extension for UI annotations as per the learning which we had in the last class for CDS BOPF. A special thanks to my colleague Shubham for getting this design created for us. Thank you, Shubham, for your hard work and commitment shown with regard to this scenario. So this is what was created by Shubham. You can see, guys, what a professional work he has done. In next time, when you get similar kind of requirement, you should always try to target yourself to design this kind of a design document. So many times in a company, we should right away not start with development. Rather, we should first have a design document. And this design document will have a high level and low level design. In the high level design, you can put a design document or design diagram like this, which showcase the relationship between multiple entities. That way, the developer and the architect and technical community of your team will become aware about how the entire flow of the development will be. This makes the requirement very transparent and clear, and also helps anybody who is willing to take handover later on of this functionality. For them, it becomes easy. Even let's say I am a developer who developing it today, after a week or 10 days or a month later, if somebody asks me about this functionality, I will not remember what I've done that time. So having a design document is a best practice, so that later on I can go and open this design and see myself how the overall structure of my application looks like. So this is a great help what you get for the design document. And you should always do a design like this, at least a basic design like this. Of course, you can go more deeper to a high level design where you put the fields and properties and the relationships more deeper in form of tables. But at least to begin with, this design is very important. It gives you a complete outlook of your entire requirement in one go. Having said that, let's begin now and understand our step number one, which is designing our database tables. So we will design our database tables first, so-called our header and item. And please pay attention that I am putting the standard naming convention, what we are doing and following in this corporate training, wherein you will replace this XX with your name initials while using the code. We have also provided the complete source code to you for building this scenario in this corporate training. So you will not have any problem while doing hands-on yourself with real example into the system. This test scenario is already tested and proven to be work, so you will not have any problem and inconsistencies while activating these objects. Having said that, let me get started. I would also request Shubham to provide the link, Git link to all the participants now, so that they can keep taking the code from there. We have organized the complete code in the Git for you in this special corporate training program. So all of you will be able to take advantage of the source code which we developed for you, helping you to do a real hands-on into the system. So Shubham, can you please provide the link into the chat window to all the participants for the table? We have structured everything in form of different tables basically. So let me show you how did we structure our content today. So we have table folder where you will find all the table code. We have then interface view, all the interface view. Then we have the consumption views, and finally we have the metadata extension. So we will go in the same flow. To begin, we will start with database tables. So let me first create, and then all of you can also follow along step-by-step approach to learn this entire scenario. I'll just close my existing objects, and then I will connect to our system. And now let me start creating our table. You can also start creating a package and do this inside a package so that you can be safe with your object. But let me start with my local object only. I will right click, click new, and I will create now a database table. So for now, I'm using ABAP development tool on Eclipse to also create a database table. Search for table, create a database table, click next. Let's give the table name. I'll open the header table. The name of the table is here, ZSOXXHDR. I will copy the name and paste it here. And this is my sales order header table. I click on finish. Oops, table already exists. Let me just put here Anubhav AB, yes, or AO as my name convention instead of XX. AO I'll put, and I'll finish. And now I'm just going to grab the code, Control A, Control C, paste everything, and just replace XX with AO, my name initials. This is how you all have to do with the same scenario. I will activate now, and you can see the table has been activated. Right now there's no data, of course. Next step is we will add the next table, which is items table. I will open the items table source code. I will copy the table name, and then I'm going to go back to ABAP development tool on Eclipse. And then let's create the next table, new. I will search for table, database table. Guys, this is your chance. This is your time. Please follow along. This is a very important scenario. It is going to give you complete idea. If you could not practice last class, no problem. This class is very important. You all have to practice. Okay, sales order item table. And let's click on finish. Let's grab the code, come back, and I will put instead of access AO. I click on save. There's a small change you can see here. I forgot to replace this also. Yes, I have to make sure that everywhere I'm making the right change. Okay, so ZSOAO item table, still there is an error. Let me just check where the error is. I just go back and check here. There is an extra character, it seems. There's something wrong. ZSOAO item. Am I missing something? Let me just check. ZAO item, currency code. Currency code is here. Yeah, it is saying this is some error with respect to line number 6. Define table, table name space curly braces. There's some extra space here, guys. Seems like, yeah, this is an extra space here. This is a space in the notepad actually, which is causing this problem. So just have to kill this extra space, which is due to notepad. It has come. Yeah, no worries. I will also give you all the source code in the chat window just in case. So somewhere this extra space is causing extra bit of issue. Now we have issue in line number 15. Yes, this extra space. And I will save. Yes, the error is gone. So extra space in the notepad also can cause an issue. Wow. Okay, now I will just copy this code, both the tables, and I will also give you in the chat window to all of you, and you all can also follow along. However, you can see the Git link out there in the chat window, which Shubham has pasted already for all of you, and you guys can also check the same. Or you can also take the code from the chat window now I have given. Your time starts now. You've got 5 minutes to create both the tables and activate them. Don't forget to choose or change the namespace with your own name initial, so we will not conflict between each other's object. Your time starts now. So now we have created the table. So let's go back and see the next phase of our design. Our design says once we are done with the tables, it's time to create interface view. On header table, we create header interface view, and on item table, we create items interface view. So let's start with interface view. I would request my colleague to send you the Git link for the interface view now in the chat window. And first, let me create it in front of you, and then you guys can create. So this is our interface view for sales order. I will take the file name, copy that, and I'll switch over back to the Eclipse, and here is where I will create my core data and service, my CDS view. So search for core data and service. Let's create new data definition. Just put the name, and of course replace XX with your name initials. So I'm putting AO, and I will say sales order header interface view. Yes, makes sense. And I click on next, and then I can see define view. Yes, very good. Finish. And I'm going to grab all the source code now. So let's grab the code and let's open the file. We grab this code, Control A, Control C, and we put it. Let's understand this code for a minute. So the first line of this code, you can see here, system is showing the name of the view. Of course, this is our name of SQL view. And these are normal CDS annotations, which we are already aware of multiple times working with them. Nothing radical by far. Yes, let me just get through. What we do now is we create a object model notation, which is what we saw also in last class. We create a business object using this. We pass a semantic key for our object, which is sales order ID. Composition root, very important. Guys, this time we are creating a BOPF object, and that BOPF object intentionally is going to be containing actually a multiple node structure. So we will have a two node structure here where you will have a header node for sales order header, and you will have a child node called items. So we are saying that this view which I'm creating here is going to act like my root. This is root node of my tree, and this is child node of my tree. So that's why we are marking it as composite root. Then we enabling transaction processing, create, update, and delete scenario. And we also say which table it is going to store data. And this table, of course, as we go along, my table name should be, I should replace all XX with my name initials, AO. Yes, that's better. With one click, you can replace everything. Yes, that's what we are doing. And now you can see here, it is going to create going to reference to my table, which is ZSOAO header. And then also a new draft persistence table will be created. And if there is any change on data, this will be taken care by change that field. System will take care of that. Coming down, you can see our CDS code, which is fairly simple, where we are reading our data from header table, and it is then associating with items CDS. Item CDS we didn't create yet. So let us comment out these two lines, line number 28 and 29. Control 7, I comment out this line in ADT. So we'll use Control 7. Oops, it's not working. So no problem, we can do a double slash by ourselves. Yes, we commenting for now the items association. For now I'm commenting. Then I'm associating with standard SAP table, SAP view for business partner to get customer data, and a status table to get different statuses available for value help. Yeah. Now we have some object model annotation. We are saying the sales order ID field is going to be read only. User should not be able to edit the sales order ID because this is going to be automatically generated. Think about ABAP development. In ABAP also in the past, we used to do that. When you create a transaction, you create sales order, purchase order, you use sequences in ABAP, right? SNRO sequence to auto-generate sequence number. Same thing we're going to do here. We will determine the sales order ID dynamically based on our logic, our determination. So that's why we are making it read only. We don't want user to enter sales order ID. It should be generated either from a SNRO sequence or through some other logic, ABAP logic. So we're making it read only here. We're not allowing user to change this. Then we have association to business partner here for this business partner so that we can get value help, and also association to overall status to get status values. Yes. Coming down, we have also this annotation to say that this is my last changed at and create at, and changed by and created by. Why? Because I want these four fields to auto-populate automatically. Yeah. I want system to auto-populate these four fields for me. When somebody create an entry, I want BOPF framework to automatically insert created by, changed by, created on, and changed on values in these fields of my database table. And that's why we have these extra annotation which are marking them or telling the BOPF that these are my created by, changed by fields. And then of course exposed association, and finally here items association. And you see, to make the tree structure of business object, we are saying that this item is my composite child. It's a child of my BOPF tree. But since right now items CDS is not ready, I'm commenting out this code, and I will just activate first my header CDS for interface to create my first header of the business object. I will save and activate this now, and you will see it will get activated. You have to repeat this process now. Let me first activate. It's going to take a few seconds, and done. And you can now see the business object is generated. As usual, you can go to our business object. Yes. And now you can see in the outline view, this is our BO. Root node has been created. You see right now, there is no child node. Right now, it is exactly like our last example of flight table where we just had one node. So it is exactly like that right now. It is just having one node at a moment. Later on, I will add the items as a child. So you will see another node will be appended below this header node. Yeah, that is what currently happening. So now I give you the time. You've got 5 minutes to create your next CDS. Your time starts now on your system, everyone. So now next step is to create items CDS, which is our child node of this root node. So to do that, we switch over back to the ADT and we will develop our next CDS, which is items. So you would find the next one is here. I will copy the name. I will switch over back and create now a next CDS for items. This is our interface view, which is going to act like a child of the root. Yeah, child of the root node. I click on finish and now I am going to add here the content. So let's add that, come back and paste. And of course, replace every time this XX with your name initials. So we will not conflict with other team members objects because we all are practicing in the same system. Replace. And now see, let's read the code. So you can see here again the basic CDS annotations. Let's keep them apart. Important is again we create a object model annotation to create a node. This node is for items and the key for this is sales order item ID. Now you can see here we have the we have the write active persistence. This is our database table we created a few moments ago where we want to write items data. We are telling BOPF to generate all the insert, update, delete code for this because we are enabling all of that. And let the BOPF also create a draft table for us for items. Then we have definition of our CDS, which begins on the database table for item and associate with product table and currency. Additionally, you can see composition association. Composition minimum cardinality is 1. So I'm saying that a item instance cannot exist without a header instance. If you go to now in the next level of ABAP on HANA with RESTful application programming model, so-called RAP, which is an advanced version of SAP BOPF based implementation. Maybe you can join my ABAP on cloud training where I covered that RAP. But there we have now a new keyword provided by SAP called composition directly. Yeah, this is what SAP provided nowadays. But since we are still using BOPF based implementation, we are going with association annotation or association keyword with minimum as 1, which means it's a composition. It's a compositional association, which means a item cannot exist technically without a header. A item always depends on header. Yeah. So that is the type of relationship it is with header. And then of course the condition and then our columns from the items table. Again, here the item ID is read only. I am going to auto generate item ID for our requirement. We are not letting user to put the item ID. We will auto generate item ID. Then we have the foreign key relationships. Yes, with our fields. And if you come down, you can see object model association type. This is very interesting. We putting composition parent and composition root. So I'm saying this sales order is my sales order view. That is going to act like a composition parent. It is the parent of my current node, and it is also the root of the business object, which is going to be supplied to BOPF. So basically, again, it's the just to remind you the tree structure which I drawn a few seconds ago, same thing. So I'm saying this header association, this header sales order header is my root node of the tree. And also it is not just the root, but it is also the parent of what? Parent of my current items. So my items is here. So we are right now creating items. So we are saying this is an item which is actually for which the root is this parent. And also this is not just the root, it is the super root. It is the root of the tree and it is also my parent. So for the item, it is not just parent, it is also the root of the tree. So this is how we link it. And of course, we have done this relationship now and we will activate. So during activation, you now get an error. The reason is you can claim that this particular CDS is a child, but the parent also have to accept that it is my child. If parent doesn't accept that it is my child, it will not work. So it has to be a bi-directional relationship. So now when I try to activate this, let's see what happens. So I try to activate our child view, or child items view, of course, and you can see it got activated, but it is giving an error. Yeah, it's saying that the association to child is missing. So I am saying that this item view is pointing to a parent. Yeah, I'm saying this is my parent. The sales order is my header is my parent, but the parent is not saying that it is my child. So parent has to acknowledge also that this item view is my child also. So what we need to also do now is go back to the header view and just uncomment the lines of code which we kind of commented last time. Yes, uncomment these 4 lines, and of course put a comma here. Comma is mandatory. Yes, and save this header view also, and then activate both the header and item together. एक साथ activate करना है. कैसे करेंगे? Very easy. Just make a change here to the item space or something, and now click on this multi activate. Yeah, multi activate, and select both of your header and item together here. दोनों एक साथ select करना आपको and just activate. Yes, let's see what it does. अब ये दोनों को connect कर देगा. It will connect both of our view, and it will create a parent-child relationship in your business object. Now, voila, it got activated. There is no syntax error now anymore. And if you go back surprisingly to your header business object again, मजा आने वाला है. Yes, let's see our outline view. Voila, you can see it has got a child now. Congratulations everybody, you've successfully created a multi relationship now. You've got a header node, you've got a child node. This is how you can build a real-time business object for BOPF using CDS with header and child. So this is what we've done now. This is my child, this is my header. It has connected both of them together, auto-generated the complex business object with header child relationship. This is the trick. This is the way to proceed with it. On your systems, everybody, you've got extra time, 8 minutes now, to complete this development of child view and also generate the relationship between them. On Okay, everyone, let's come back to my screen. So now after creating these 2 views, let's move towards the step 3, creating consumption views. We have to create consumption views on top of interface views. Consumption views are finally for the UI consumption. We will build these views on top of our interface views with a similar approach of composition. We will also build OData service on our consumption view always. Let's go ahead and build our consumption view step by step. I will switch over back to my next folder for consumption view. I will start with the first sales order header consumption view. I will come back here and create our consumption view now. Of course, I will replace this XX with my name initials. Consumption view for sales order header. Click on finish. Grab the code. Come back. Paste the code. Replace all the occurrences of XX with AO, my name initials. And of course, now you can see, let's review the code. First, the basic CDS code, not a problem. We are allowing metadata extension because soon we will add Fiori relevant annotations. Then we are saying this is a composite route again, and we are enabling transactional processing and also the draft processing. Then we are publishing the OData service, defining our consumption view on top of our interface view for sales order header. Currently, the items consumption view is not created, So again, it is giving an error. Let's comment out this code. We will follow the same approach which we did few seconds ago. Then we have again search element annotations and basic annotation with consumption annotation for item. Let's comment out this as well. Let's activate our consumption view. It was nothing much, just a simple view on top of our interface view with similar annotation. Please pay attention. We don't have to give draft persistence table name and active persistence table name because that is given already at the interface level. Your business object is generated due to these annotations which are done at interface view level. We don't need to repeat that at consumption view level. So now you all can go ahead and create this in your system. So next step is to build the items consumption view on our items interface view as per the design. So we just completed this consumption view. Now we are going for the second one for the items. And of course, then we will do a composition relationship between these two consumption views also like we did between interface views. So switch over back and I will go back to my next consumption view. First, I'll take the name. I will come back and create next CDS, a consumption CDS on items. I'll put my name initials, consumption CDS U for sales items. Click on finish and I will go back and grab the code. I will come back and paste here. And now I will put replace all XX with my name initials. And you can see I'm saving it. So let's read once again what we have got. So again, we say allow metadata extension so that we can add UI annotations, which we will be utilizing to put our annotations related to the Fiori app. We are saying searchable as true. We are also going to mark this time our composite primary key here as part of semantic key to say that these two are together. And then we have also create delete enabled. Please pay attention that we've already generated the business object at interface item level, which is what get added as a child to the parent node. So we don't need to put our table names for draft and active table in here. If you can also want, you can copy this draft table name. Draft tables are automatically generated. You can do Control Shift A, search for the table. You will see a draft table is auto generated by BOPF framework. We don't have to do anything. Similarly, for header, a draft table was also generated automatically. I can just do Control Shift A, search, and you see we didn't create these tables. System auto manage these tables for us. The business object processing framework does that for you. Now I can go back to my consumption CDS for items, and then you see it's joining with the consumption CDS. First of all, it's fetching data from items interface view and joining with a composition relationship, minimum cardinality is 1 with my header. And then if you come down, it's again connecting with products and currency for the value help purpose. And then you can see again, we are saying this is going to be a child node for my header node, for my sales order header. Yes. Additionally, we are making my sales order ID and sales order item ID both a read only so that nobody can ever edit this data at all. I will now do a multi-activate both for header and item. So let's make a small change to header and also uncomment these lines so that we can do a together activation for both consumption views in the system. I'll do multi-activate and I'll select both my consumption view together and activate them together. So it's going to take less time as compared to the interface views. Yeah, done. And you can see both are now active. So yeah, okay, everyone, come back. So now we have generated our consumption views and we have generated our interface views and database table. But in order to create and test or create a new sales order and sales order item, you all know that we need the order ID because order ID is the key in my database table. Yes. And also the composite key of my item table includes order ID and item ID. This is my composite key in the items table. Yeah. So what we want to do now, we want to auto generate the order ID and order item ID together. So for that, we have learned in the past class that during save, we want something to be computed automatically. I took an example of insurance company. When you go to insurance company and let's say insurance company using S4 HANA with CDS BOPF, they have an application to create an insurance policy. They will enter the insured person name, age, type of policy, sum insured, the duration, tenure of the policy, and the claim amount. They save the insurance policy. A insurance policy number is auto calculated. Similarly, also the premium for that insurance is also auto calculated. So the same thing we have to do here. When somebody create a new sales order, I need to auto create the order ID. I cannot leave order ID on user's head. And the same way, when somebody create item, I want to auto create an item. For that, we will now add determination both at the header and item level to auto generate order header and order item. That is my step number 3. I would request my colleague to give you the Git link for determination code for order item and item ID and sales order item ID or sales order ID. So let us first see this and then you guys can try this. So at this time, I will switch to our business object for header. So I can navigate from CDS to our business object and I can go to the outline view and I will now see first the header. This is our header node. In this header node, we are going to create a determination. So right click and create a determination and I will say generate order ID and generate ORD underscore XX for my name initials AOID. Yeah. So this is my name initial. So similarly, you guys can also write the logic so that your method or your class name will not conflict with my class name. Yeah. So let me give you this in the chat window so that you all can follow along. And now I will put here generate or auto generate order ID when creating new order. Yeah. So now React after modification, let it be. It will create now a class for us where we will write the logic. I click finish. It will create now a class, you can see. And guys, this should be only done during create. I don't want to generate an order ID when I'm updating my sales order. So I have to uncheck this update option. And I will first save and I click on this new button to create a new class. Let's create a new class and I will write my logic in this execute method. So I can go back now. My colleague is going to give you the Git link for the determination code. It's a text file. So first add sales order ID automatically. This is the code. I will pick the code, copy the code, come back to my method, execute method and paste it. But there is a big catch. The catch is your interfaces, your names, they don't have XX. Let's replace XX with name initials. So it will auto adapt all the places. And now let's read this code. So what are we doing in this code? We are checking both our order header table and order draft table. You see this is our header table and draft table because there may be a new order which customer is creating in draft. So I'm taking a union of both tables and putting into a new variable called both. Yeah, it's a variable. So I'm saying with this as, and I'm just doing a union of both my table entries and getting into a new variable called both. Then I'm selecting data from this both with the max order ID. What is the maximum order ID already assigned to someone in draft and main table? Get that max order ID. If the max order ID is initial, which means till now there is not a single order in my table, I initialize the max order ID with 700000000. If it is already there, just increment it by 1. Yeah, increment it by 1. That is what we are doing. Yes, we are going to increment it by 1. Yes, that's what we are doing here. Please increment this order by 1. Then I will read data from screen. I will take this data. I will change now. You see, increment it by 1, and I will change the order ID. And then I will do a alpha num. You know the conversion exit in ABAP because it's required because we have prefix 0 here. So it's a 10 character ID. So prefix 0 is there. So it's important that we add conversion exit. So we're doing this conversion exit, alphanumeric conversion exit. And then I will take my sales order ID. This sales order ID I will update and then I will surrender it to BOPF. Let the BOPF save my new sales order in the draft and or in the main table with a new lead generated sales order ID automatically. Possibly you can also avoid this logic and use a sequence number. I'm sure you all are BAPers, you know SNRO, yes, transaction code, where you can create sequences and you can utilize sequences to generate a sequence number. That's your choice. Yeah, you can do that. I've maintained also the code comments to see what exactly I'm doing on each and every step here. You can read through the code, commented code to see what am I doing here in each line. I will now activate this. Don't forget to replace your name space of XX with your name so that your code remains compatible to what you're pasting. And then let's also activate this business object. So one is down, one is left. Item is left. We've done it for the header level. We now need to do this for item level because it has to also generate item ID automatically. Let's expand the item node, which is a child node this time. Right click here, add determination, and I will say calculate item ID. And I put my name initial ID, calculate item ID. Again, click on finish. Don't do this for update, please. Only generate it during create. Very important. I will save and now create a new class. And let us go back and write here the logic. I will go back to determination code and you see add the code for item ID. Yeah, that's what we'll do. And I will copy this code. Wow. Paste that code here. Yes. And now replace XX with my name initials because all my objects are planned accordingly. It's the same logic what we're doing now. Again, we are going to the main item table and draft item table, and we are checking the maximum order item ID this time. Yes. And based on this order item ID, I'm going to automatically assign new order item ID. Yes. And then of course, read and increment it by 1. I'm adding 10 to it because order item ID, I want to start 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. Yes. And then we will put this and update this at runtime during create. So when somebody create a new order item, item ID will get created automatically. That's my second determination. I will activate, and I will also don't forget to activate the BO. Otherwise this implementation will not be executed. Activate the business object. And now it's your turn to go ahead and try this in your system. Everyone on your system, you've got 8 minutes to create screen. Now, after auto calculating the item ID and order ID, don't you think it's also important to calculate the gross amount of the sales? How come? Because just think for a moment that when user will enter the item data, they will choose a product from value help. So they will just come here and they will choose a product from value help. And after choosing, they will enter quantity. So from the product header table, I will already get the price of the product. So if price of a product is, let's say $100, and if user enter quantity as 3, then I can automatically myself calculate the 100 into 3, 300. Yeah. So that way you can auto calculate the gross amount at each item level in the local currency. To do that, we have to also add another determination, which is going to do this computation based on the price of a product after the product is selected by user and entered a quantity. So for that, we add the next determination in our business object at item level. I'll switch over back and I will right click on item, add another determination and choose here calculate price or calculate gross AO, my name initials, and calculate gross price or gross amount by price, product price, and we say finish. Another determination at this time, make sure we keep the update also checked because we want to also do this computation not just during create but during update as well. Yeah. So now I'll save it and go to new, and let's grab our source code for the last determination in this sequence, and I will just copy that and bring it here, and let's read the code what it is doing. So first let's replace all the initials with my name initials as you are following the same naming convention. And now what we're doing, we are reading here the data from the screen. We take based on the given product ID, we are fetching the detail of the price. What's the price of this product? After we get the price, we are looping over each item for which I want to calculate the price, and we're checking if the quantity is more than 0. If yes, then you take the price, multiply with the quantity. You get the gross amount. If this gross amount is not matching with the already existing gross amount for the item level, update the gross amount on the screen with the currency code. I will save this, activate this, and I will also activate my business object now. That completes our addition of determination, everyone. So now we've arrived to a state where we can start building our annotations for CDS view. As you all know, we will want to bring statelessness to our logic, but our UI changes are going to be enormous on a running application. Hence, we separate out all our UI changes, UI related activities into a metadata extension file. Let's create metadata extension file for header and items. So first we will right click on the header consumption CDS and create a metadata extension file by choosing new metadata extension. And now I will switch over back to our code for metadata extension, and we will first create metadata extension for header. So I will come back and create a metadata extension file. Of course, replace this with my name initials, extension for header. Click on finish. And now we will write all our logic. So let's grab the logic. And now let's also replace XX with AO. So what is that we got in this metadata extension? Let's understand that step by step. So first we got header info with sales order and orders. So by putting this type plural, it will show the header above the line item table. I'll switch over back to our app and let me show you what is that each annotation will do. So this sales orders header, what you see here is what is displayed just because we put this type plural in the header info. Yeah, that's a first annotation. Then I want two fields here, the sales order ID and sales order status as two selection field for which we use selection field annotation. So if you come back, you see here for sales order ID and for the status, we are using selection field annotation here and selection field annotation here. Then we want columns. So what columns do we want in table? We want order ID, customer, and status. All three I want, for which we will use annotations called line item. So you can see I'm using line item for sales order ID, line item annotation for business partner, and line item annotation for overall status on my screen. Then on the next screen, when user click one of the item, it drill down to object page. In the object page, we have header section and we have items section. So first we will create a facet called header detail facet. That header detail facet we will have order ID, customer, and also the status. 3 fields. These fields are called identification fields. So we will put identification notation for all 3 and a header facet called header detail, which is going to point to this identification fields using identification reference. So if you go back, we have identification field here, identification annotation for all 3 fields. And then there is a facet which is of type identification reference facet. This facet is called header details. This is the title, and you can see header details title for this facet. The next facet is order items facet, which is here, order items facet, pointing to a line item reference because we want to create a table. But this table will come from items association. So that's why we are going to show here items. So these item columns we will define in items annotation metadata extension for items consumption CDS. Hence it's pointing target element to items. So all the item related, line item related annotations will go in the items metadata extension for consumption. So first we will create for header and next we will create for items. So let me activate this. And now I will create a metadata extension for item also. So let's right click on consumption view of items, metadata extension, and we will put the next one, which is item MDE, replace with my name initials. So I will not conflict with others. And yeah, items metadata extensions. Finish. Let's grab the code. And oops. And let's replace also XX with my name initials. And let's understand what we have got. Again, we got header info where you see it shows sales order items. This sales order item is nothing but your title, this sales order item title. That comes because of these sales order items. Then we will have here the line item annotation because we are going to show columns position, product, quantity, and gross. So these 4 columns we will have 4 line item annotation. So you can see first line item annotation for item ID, second line item annotation for product, third line item annotation for quantity, and last one for gross amount. And then of course, when you want to create a new item, you see there is a create button. There will be a create button. Yes, there is a create button actually to create a new item. It will take you drill down to the level 3 where you can create an item. So for that, we put identification annotation so that we can create these values. We can allow user to enter the data for items, and that is going to be a facet of identification reference for item details. Let's activate our metadata extension for item consumption also. So now we are done with creation of annotations metadata extension for both header and item. Hit the metadata extension. So now we are very close towards building our Fiori app. The last step is to build a OData service. We switch over back to our headers consumption CDS view, and you can see we already marked OData extension here. So let's register our OData service as usual. What we do, we copy the name of the view and we switch over now to the control 6 to SAP GUI. And here we will switch to our main service transaction code to register our OData service. We will choose local, of course, and we will put here name, select, add local object, and that was very straightforward and simple. My service is now registered. I will copy the service name because next step is to build Fiori app. Switch over to VS Code tool, Visual Studio Code. Let's start that. And now, first of all, you got time to register your service now. So now we will switch over back to VS Code tool, which is where our Fiori release tools are ready. and we're going to start our end-to-end Fiori app. There is nothing literally you have to write on Fiori side because it's all fully controlled by BOPF, CDS, and OData, and of course annotations. We switch over back to View Command Palette, Fiori Application Generator, and like we did so many times in the past, we will create a new list report app. We click on Next, select the data source as my system. I will choose our system, which we have already registered over here in VS Code development tool. Yes. Okay. Maybe I'll just say new system, and I will put here system type as on-premise, and I will put our system URL. So the system URL is based on our IP address. So let me get our server IP address again. HTTP server IP port number was 8001, I think, or 8002. I can also cross check the port number in the system, but let me first get the IP address. So let's get the IP address of our S4HANA system. And I will put that here. And I will put here the port number 8001, I think. That's the correct one. It has accepted. Put SAP client 310, my username of the server, and my password. I will log in. It will log in and it will fetch all the service info. Let's put my service name, which I've got from CDS, and I select to click on next. Make sure here we select the consumption CDS for header and click next. Give a project name. I can say sales order app, BOPF sales order app. Give a namespace if you want, or leave it empty and put anubhavtrainings.com, and we say finish. This will now generate a Fiori application which is of type list report in our VS Code. You can see it is installing all dependencies. In the meanwhile, I can right click and add folder to workspace, and I will just click select our app to add it on our VS Code. Once the installation of dependencies is done, which is going to take hardly a minute, we can run the app and test our end-to-end application. So it is still installing the dependencies. You can see, and in few moments, we will see this will get over and we will be able to run our app. It's going to read all the annotations like selection field, line item, facets with line item at facet and identification facet. It will go to items. There it will read the items related annotations for header and items. So I can right click now and say preview and start. And it will start our application in local machine. So it started the browser and it is now just loading all the dependencies required to run the app. It is reading the OData, it is reading metadata, it is reading annotations, and there you go. 2 selection fields. Click on go button. Of course, there is no order. We click new order and you see order ID is auto generated. Wow. We choose a customer. We select status as new. We create now a new line item, but oops, I don't have a button to create new line item. Something is wrong. So the problem is in the app generation actually, not in the CDS. So what I will do now is I will just go back and I do Control C to stop my app, and maybe I will delete this. I don't need it anymore. And I will build the application once again from scratch. So I go to View Command Palette, open Fiori Application Generator, and as usual, I will choose our Fiori list report object next. And then I will choose here data source connect to my system and our SAP S4HANA system. And now we will enter our service name, which we were coding in the last class. Let me open the service. It's a consumption CDS based service. We will put that here. There's no change in CDS code actually. And I click next. And now this is where the problem is. We have forgot to use navigation entity. This was the main problem or issue. If we do not give our navigation entity name, system will not enable create option for items. Yes, this is where I missed the part. If you go back to the CDS, you will see we do have a items aggregation here. Yes, this is what we have. So we have to always choose that two items. This is the catch. This is the problem. This is where the issue was. I click next and I will now create our app name. So let's say sales order app. Okay, sales order BOPF trainings.com. You can give a namespace. Let's say Anubhav BOPF, and I can say finish. Additionally, you can add deployment configuration right there itself if you're willing to deploy this app to the S4 HANA system. I say finish. It will now generate our application. And you can see it is installing all the dependencies. So in the meanwhile, I can add the project, add folder to workspace. I can select this project and I add. So now the new app is here with the updated source code. I can right click. Okay, let it finish installing all the dependencies. And then of course, we can go ahead and test our application. It won't take more than a minute to install these dependencies. And then of course, we can start and test our application. So if you notice this app, there is no view, there is no controller. Those who are aware of UI5, we are developing application using Fury templates or Fury elements. Hence, you will not get any view or controller here as such. Okay, let's run, preview, start. It is now starting browser and it will also read metadata and the app is live. Let's click on go. We still see our records, no problem. Let's create now a new order. And voila, now you see the create button appears for me to allow creating items. So let me create first the header. And you can see as per our determination, system auto generates the order ID. And I can now select a business partner, a status of the order, and I can create new items. That takes me to the third level drill down where I can now choose products. I can choose quantity of products. So if the price of this product is $100, then 100 into 2 will eventually become 200 here. Example, yeah. And you see it auto-generated the position also with the determination. And then the gross amount will be auto-calculated because of our determination. I say apply and I create the order first. And now you can see the total gross amount was auto-computed, 460 euros, and 2 is the quantity. I can edit and I can add or change quantity to, let's say, 3 or 5. Notice this 460, it will become 1150 because our determination is computing item total automatically. And now I can also go back and add more items. You see next item ID is auto generated as 20. I can choose a different product with quantity 1 and apply. And I will save. So you can see now both items are added to our sales order eventually. So that is exactly how we can develop a application in the system with end-to-end BOPF scenario. You can see also the last class, I was half editing these objects. They are draft. So drafts are also saved and you can always open a draft You can change draft, and as well you have the option to discard and keep draft, as well as you can go back and now edit. And if you don't like one item, you can also delete an item, or the whole order can be also deleted accordingly. Yes. So this is how exactly we can develop a end-to-end BOPF CDS enabled application with multiple nodes inside a business object. The main magic of the annotation was related to this composition child, composition parent, and composition root. That is taking care of creating a multi-node structure for our business object. So now you have got 5 minutes to go ahead and generate the app using VS Code yourself, and then test this yourself. Your time starts now. So there is a question here that how do we debug if we want to debug our determination? Yes, we can. So we switch over back, and let me switch over, go to our business object, and I can go to the business object node. And I think I need to be on the ABAP perspective first of all. Yes. And I can go back here to the business object, for example, order. And in this, we had a determination for generating a order ID automatically. We can browse our class and we can navigate to this class where we have all the logic. So I will open the class, and now I wanted to set up a breakpoint. So just double click next to the line 22, for example. I want to start debugging from this line. So now I will go back and just hit the create button. Yes, so that's what I do. I just click the create button, and you will see it should call my determination immediately because I'm in the create mode. So now the breakpoint has hit into Eclipse. So remember, you can't debug CDS. You can debug always your determination actions and your validations, because that's the real ABAP code. Okay, now I press F6. Shortcuts are absolutely same. It's checking the max order ID. You can see it's right now 3. It retrieves the data from the screen. It goes inside. It will increment it by 1. So now it has become 700000004. And then it is going to do a conversion exit. So with that, it will put a preceding 0 before this, because we have to do, it's a 10 character. So we have to append a 0. So system will take care with alpha conversion exit. And you see now the updated sales order ID will have a 0 before this. And this needs to be updated through the BO instance into the database. I press F8 and the screen comes back to the next screen, and you see the number 70004 is auto generated. Yeah. So same way you can debug any of your functionality which you're writing in the business object.